So, welcome everybody. I'm Cindy Myers, and um, tonight we're going to talk about is the intuitive listening webinar. Now we're going to talk about these are really crazy times we're in, and how they have created a whole lot of stress on us, extra stress than normal, and how we can maybe get through them without going totally batty. At least that's my goal. But I think too, an understanding a little bit about what the heck is going on and how it's working on us, it's helpful. So to be more conscious, of course, is always helpful. And I think that could be the gift of these times for those of us that come on to these kinds of webinars. And um, it, it, it works. We get to choose. Do we want to stay in the unconscious fear state all the time and let our lizard brains driving us and other people pushing us into the fear state? And convincing us or pushing us into being in the more crazy times because they get something out of it? Or do we want to be more conscious? And I find that if I'm going to be crazy, I'd rather be conscious about being crazy. So at least it's my choice then. So let's talk about that a bit. But before we do that, if you're having a medical emergency, please call 911. But what I can do for you is provide energy support so that your natural healing abilities can play a part. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on, because I've just been reading an interesting magazine and that came up today. And it actually feeds in with what these crazy times are about and the consciousness that it's bringing out in a whole lot of us. So we'll continue that. Um, so let's see. Oh, I should hit the play button too, so you don't have to see everything. There we go. So let's talk about these craziness and disruptions that take us out of balance. And I kind of made this little, not very overly professional little diagram here on the right, with the talking about the personal, collective, and universal. Because what's going on and why it is such crazy times is that the disruption that's going on is impacting us personally, a lot of it. We've had our lives totally disrupted, from our normal routines, from just doing some of the basics in life, or even some of the bigger things in life. There's a lot of disruption. That has increased some of our emotions, anxiety, worry, fear, all those lovely negative emotions really have come to a head for a lot of us. But so it's personal, it's really impacting our day-to-day life. But there's also definitely a collective, and we can see that through social media, through news, through all sorts of what's going on, that it's a collective anxiety as well. That divisiveness that we see in our own country here, doesn't, I'm not talking politics necessarily, but it still is, that is part of the disruption, is that each there's a tendency or a force that wants us to be divided and keep in our own unconscious state. Each side is unconscious in a lot of ways. And so that's a collective phenomena that's going on, that is fear-based. And then there's a universal. So a lot of, I don't know if you've been following things, but there's been for astrology, and I don't know, I mean, I know about this much about astrology on my little pinky nail, so I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form about astrology. But there has been some major things with planets, lots of planets lining that haven't happened in hundreds or thousands of years, and it's been happening lately. So that's a universal disruption, right? That can cause things. Universal can also happen, like in nature, that sort of disruption in our own world, our planet. So the global warming changes that are happening, that it can change us, that can impact us as well. It changes the energy. There's more water out there, if there's less water. Guess what? We're mostly water, right? So we can feel the impact of the stress that Mother Nature is going through in our bodies, because mother, of the world, world, our planet is mostly water. So if that is changing, guess what? It's going to be felt in our bodies, because we too have a lot of water in our bodies, right? So the universal disruption can definitely impact us as well. So it's really important to look at all three pieces and not just one when we're looking at our own issues, because it's not all about us. And so that can help know a lot of times that, you know, I felt fine earlier today. And then all of a sudden I didn't feel fine. Is it because something happened and it didn't seem like anything happened? Or did some collective energy just happen? And it can actually be very felt in our dreams. If you remember your dreams, this concept of personal, collective, and universe can really play out in your dreams. And that is true. My dreams lately, I've had some really crazy dreams, and not some of them not very good dreams. And I wake up going, what the heck? And I go, I don't think that was, my issue. I think there was a collective issue going on. And it's like, oh, what's going to happen collectively? Something is being disruptive out there. And so, and I'm not watching a whole lot of news, so I don't know if it happened or not, or if we're about to happen. So sometimes it's more of a premonition too, but it really can be impacted that way. So just be aware that it isn't always just about us. And definitely for the universal piece of it, we've just gone through this quantum shift. And what I mean by that is we've added some more frequencies to our normal way of being, and energy is frequencies. So think of a piano, and a normal piano has so many keys in it. What if all of a sudden somebody added another octave up at the high end? And it's a higher frequency, by the way, that got added, not a lower frequency. So so imagine now learning how to play the piano with a whole nother octave. So your ear has to get used to these new notes. You have to create new music with these new notes. You have to learn the muscle. Your muscles have to learn how to use all these new notes. And so that's what's going on with this quantum shift. It was in the process. It isn't just a light switch that happens. There's a process and an evolution. It has happened though. So there's no turning back. And that's, again, part of this disruption right now. And the divisiveness that we're experiencing is a lot because of this quantum shift, because there's a whole lot of people going, I don't want to go there. They want to stay in their very unconscious state. And then there's a number of us that's going, oh, this is going to be cool. And excited about what can come out of it. And I believe COVID is actually a lot related to this quantum shift. And I've looked back at the history of some of the more recent quantum shifts, and there were at least epidemics, if not pandemics, that coincided with the other ones. So there's something about it that shifts the energy, which is, again, we're vibrating at, the planet is vibrating at different speeds. So when you have molecules moving, you can reform and create a new thing. So it's like if an atom or an element, water, if you move those water molecules really fast, they break apart and become steam, or their individual components. So in this case, a virus got their components were shaken and morphed into some new virus that we weren't aware of before. So that's my theory. I'm not going to, I have no proof of it, but that's just my theory of what has been shown to me. All right, so let's continue on. So let's look at your personal side too, because that's what we most care about. We can't really have anything to do with the collective so much, or the universe. Well, we can have some impact, but really, if you want to impact the collective and the universal, we need to start with ourselves. And so how do we do that? Or how do we understand that more? Well, the most we can recognize it from is in our stress. That's happening to our physical bodies. What is happening to us? How do you experience stress? How does it manifest itself? Because there's usually certain key areas that it manifests and shows itself, appears when it gets to a point where it we become aware that, man, I'm really stressed out, right? So for animals, it can be, they start chewing themselves. They may have potty accidents, more accidents in the house, stuff like that. They can show up in a behavior or physical issues. We really can see that. But so is true with us. Maybe we get tummy issues ourselves. We get maybe chew our nails more. How does that work? Think about how does your stress manifest itself? That's the first thing, is just to become aware that, man, I'm more stressed out than normal. And so when things get out of control and impacts us, that means our energy is being impacted. And it also now is impacting the world. So we get to choose at this point. When we become aware, now we're not in lizard brain and being a victim to the stress. Once we become conscious that we are, I want to know, how can this affect me personally, and how can I now impact it, not only personally, collectively, and universally. And energy, again, energy is energy. And as we've seen and talked about in past webinars, energy can be faster than the speed of light. It can happen instantaneously, which means it can travel all over the dang universe pretty darn fast. So we need to, that's how we can impact the universality of it. So by becoming conscious of it and then choosing how we want to handle these stressful times. Do we want to feed into lizard brain? Do we want to be the food itself? And how do we want to apply our energy at this point? Because even our thoughts, our day to day, second to second thoughts have energy to them. So we can be feeding the universe certain energy, or we and ourselves, because those thoughts go through us first before they radiate out. So how do we want to feed the universe? And this is where we can impact the collective and the universal as well as just it happening to us. It's a two-way street. We're always radiating and transmitting. So whatever we're radiating out can also be transmitting back to us. So once we become conscious of the stress, we get to now choose, how do we want to do things? Okay. And one of the ways, again, how we know that we're really in that stressed out state, because again, when we're in lizard brain, we're not conscious and we don't even notice our thoughts sometimes. But once we do become conscious of it, now we get to choose a little bit more. How do we want to send that energy out to ourselves and others? And realize too, our perception, when we are in that stressed out state, our perception is very skewed. Okay, so lizard brain is seeing it from a very limited way of seeing things. And remember, from if you've been on other webinars with me, lizard brain is that fight or flight response system. And so it only sees things and how to handle the situation in a few ways. The predominant ones are, it wants to run away, it wants to freeze, it wants to fight. Okay, so you're going to get angry about something, you're going to get grumpy and snippy about it. You're going to want to freeze and just not do anything and procrastinate, maybe pretend it's not happening. Or do you want to run away, just avoid. So that's how lizard brain is going to handle this situation. But when we get conscious of it, now we have a whole lot more choices that we can decide how we want to do things. We can start using those tools that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, the breathing and the gratitudes. We can try and pull ourselves out of it and then radiate that energy and look at things. Well, maybe I can look and listen differently, because that person really upset me with what they posted on social media or what I heard them say to me in a conversation. But maybe that's just, I'm not hearing it right. Or it's not about right or wrong, it's just that maybe I can hear it from their point of view and see it from their angle, as opposed to seeing it from my perception of how that experience would be done if I were it were happening to me. So that's the difference. If somebody else is having an experience, they're coming from their background and their life experiences. So they're perceiving the situation from that lens. And you're coming from a different experience from it, which could be totally different. And that's where there's a mismatch, right? You're looking at the exact same thing, but seeing it from totally two different perspectives. Is one right and one wrong? Probably not. It's just that you're coming from a different background. So it's just that that's your experience. And if we stop and then listen and see it from the other person's perspective, that's when you go, oh, I could see that happen. I could see how you see it that way. And hopefully then you can have a conversation about it. Or you can have a conversation with yourself about it and going, oh, maybe it doesn't have to be that way. For an example, for my own, before I got into this business, and making my the intuitive energy business a business, I used to think that if my alpaca business wasn't going to be bringing enough income, then I had to go get a 9 to 5 job, kind of job, and that was my only solution. That was my stress state. That was the only answer I could see. I was in a tunnel vision, and which did not make me happy. And that made me more stressed out because I did not want to go back to a 9 to 5 day job kind of a situation. I like being my own boss. And then all of a sudden, after months of stewing over this and being stressed out by it, I heard in my head was, well, who says? Right. I took some breathing and I was outside and I was just meditating and I heard, well, who says it has to be that way? Why can't you do something different? What else can, and then it was like, oh, true. Maybe there is another solution. When I opened up to that possibility, got out of lizard brain, then more things came through. And then I started asking those questions. Well, what else could I do? What gifts do I have to offer that might be of value? And what would I like to do with my time? And then that's how within weeks, within days and then weeks, I was on my path of start setting up this business and creating a business model that worked for me in doing intuitive energy work and working with animals and yourselves. So it was getting out of lizard brain, and then tons of new ideas came flooding through. So that's how we can really get out of our narrow thinking and broadening it. But we need sometimes the disruption. But this is interesting too, is that sometimes the disruption is necessary. It can be the catalyst. We tend not to make change. We humans tend not to go for change unless it's painful. Unless there's a disruption that is really uncomfortable that forces us to take a look at ourselves. So we can use it as a catalyst. So that's one thing. Now, the key though here is we tend to do it that way, but it isn't necessary. We can actually consciously go, you know what, it's just time for a change and go do it. We don't have to wait till our lives are miserable. Truly, we don't. But it is just our human nature up till this point to do it that way. It just isn't necessary. So hopefully with this quantum shift, we kind of change that rule. So how can we use positive emotions to help us through this? So like I said, when I was in my own struggles, and when I do get stressed out, and one of my signs that I'm overly stressed is I get snippy. I get a little short-tempered and less patient with my animals. And that is just an instant sign for me that if I get irritated by them and they're not doing anything different than their normal habits, then it's me being stressed out, tired. Usually it's stressed out. So what I need to then do is do some of my exercises and help myself get out of it. And using positive emotions helps me get out of it. It's like taking an anti-anxiety medication to me, or antidepressant, or in my case, an anti-grumpy medication. And and it isn't about, oh, sorry. Forgot to turn my own phone off. So it's not about pretending that may not be a reason for being upset or tired or stressed out, but I don't want to be stuck in it. So I use the positive emotions to help me keep moving and help me pull myself out of it so that I again can focus and find better solutions to my problems instead of, again, the three very limited solutions that Lizard Brain wants me to choose from. So by using a positive emotions like gratitudes, it releases different chemicals in my body that trigger my calming system or the parasympathetic response system. And then I can actually access a whole lot bit more solutions to my problems than anything else. But it isn't about pouring positive emotions in and then skipping along and saying, I don't have any problems anymore. No, it's just to be able to get to access more of my brain to come up with solutions in dealing with those problems, as opposed to just being stuck in the fear state and the stressed out state. So you can use these high frequency chemicals. Again, emotions are just chemicals that our body creates to express an emotion. We can use them to help trigger the calming system that help us engage more parts of our brain. Okay. So I've read a number of articles recently about this false positivity concept. And so we have to be careful on, that was one that I kind of got triggered on, because I talk a lot about using positive emotions, but there's a difference between faking it. Okay. We can use, we can be pretty upset and depressed or whatever, and just smiling, forcing a smile on your face can trigger your brain to release a little bit of an endorphin. Your body, when I work with animals, when I work with Tesla, who's really afraid, my dog Tesla, who gets super afraid during thunderstorms, I can manipulate her tail, gently manipulate her tail up, which is a more confident position than when it's tucked under her legs. So her body is feeding into the fear state with the tail tucked in. And so by my massaging her and bringing that tail up, it actually releases a little bit of a different chemical that her body says, oh, I'm not afraid because my tail's up. So I'm going to release a little bit of my confident and happy, my tail's up. So I must be a little bit happier, feel a little bit safer because my tail's up. So it isn't enough always to pull her out of it, but it's dripping a little bit of, of those chemicals into her body. And then with the other things that I'm doing for her, it can help. So it's faking it to some degree, except her body is releasing a little bit of the chemical. Is it enough to pull her out of it? Not always, okay, and not a lot of times, but it does help, okay? So even if we're in the worst state of mind, putting a smile, is it going to fix everything? Is it going to help you get enough that pulls you totally out? No, but it can put enough into your system to help you think of what else you can do. Okay, so with Tesla, by doing a little bit in the tail, it might buy me enough time so some of the other things that might take a little bit longer to get going into her system, the CBD or whatever else that I put into her body, those chemicals may take a little bit longer, might take 10, 15, 20 minutes to kick in. Well, doing the tail might just buy her a little bit of time of comfort to get it going so that it might speed up the effectiveness of the other stuff that I'm using for it. See the difference? So false positivity concepts, be wary of it when you read about that. Now, I think what they're talking about too is if you go up to somebody and that's really depressed and you tell them to put on a happy face and just pretend that nothing bad is going on, that is a false positive. So false positive is not saying, I'm putting a happy face on and I don't have any problems anymore. It means I want to pour some positive chemicals in my body so I don't stay stuck in fear brain so that I only see the three solutions. I want to use the positive chemicals like I would any other tool to help me keep moving so I can find solutions to my problems and not stay stuck in them. So that's how we can use positive emotions. And then it isn't a false positivity. It isn't about avoiding life problems. It is helping you through life problems. Okay. So the this other concept I wanted to talk about is really important in this having this world that is crazy around us. And it's understanding the circle of influence versus circle of concern. So we talked a little bit about that a while ago, that when the universe and the collective is doing a lot of craziness out there, we may not have a huge amount of impact on it, right? We just don't have a huge amount of influence. Maybe you do, but I know I kind of don't have, I can't make huge decisions for the whole country. That's for darn sure. I think I could solve all the problems, but in reality, I don't. Nobody wants my opinion that are making the decisions, at least. So if I sit there and watch the news all day and just worry about it all, I'm in that circle of concern, because I can watch it 24/7 and not have any impact on anything other than I'm now actually feeding the universe and collective some of the negative emotions, which is not a great thing to do. Or I can go into my circle of influence. Circle of influence is that the things that I spend my time and energy on, I actually have impact on. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to sit there and worry about it and watch the news all day and not feel helpless about it all, I can go, well, there's lots of craziness in the world. What can I do about it? I can make it a topic in my in my webinar, and let's talk about what we can do to help ourselves. And then that ripples out, and now what, maybe we do impact something in the world if enough of us are putting out that higher frequency and forward thinking emotions. Maybe we do have an impact. Okay. So now, doing the circle of influence. Another one that is more just kind of day-to-day kind of life stuff, I use this often, is I have a niece that loves to rock climb and go up into the Rockies and, on a rope and go up into these really crazy places and dangle off the edge of a cliff. And I want to go into that circle of concern and just worry the heck over what she's doing. But that is sending the wrong energy, right? I don't want to project that energy onto her. So, and you know what? There's nothing I can do. I'm in Oregon, she's in Colorado, and you know what? Even if she did, I'm not going up there because I'm afraid of heights. So my circle, I would be in total circle of concern and just be in the lizard brain worrying about her. So instead, though, what I do when I know that she's going and doing one of these climbs, I just put a bubble of white light around her and think, I'm sending you white light, safe light around you, a bubble of beautiful white light, keeping you safe and having a great time. Okay. And then I text her, let me know when you get home. But that's it. I just picture the white light around her. That's what I can do influence wise, is do that instead of sending out the other energy. So that's my circle of influence. I look at what can I have impact on and put my energy into there. Yeah, you're going to spend a whole lot of energy spinning your wheels and have absolutely nothing to show for it, or very little. Or what you might show for it is adding into the chaos, or you can go to the circle of influence and look at what I can do. So I can put peace and calm around people. I pray to peace and calm instead of, if there's a war going on or something really, crazy energy that way, where it's a lot of fighting and arguing or danger, I put a circle of peace and calm and white light. Okay. I'll use gratitude, joy. I've been using kindness a lot lately. That's a very healing energy. So bringing that in is very powerful, high frequency. So I send that out as opposed to sending out the worry energy, the anger energy, the hatred energy, the depression energy, any of that stuff. I really try and bring it back in and send out as much of the other as I can. And then I try and be aware how much of my day was I in my circle of concern versus influence. I still spend time in my circle of concern. No problem, that's normal. But I don't want to spend all day in it because I don't find it very productive. Okay. Oh, all right. So I wanted to show this chart. This is one of my regular charts that some of you have seen before, but it's always worthwhile seeing many times over. Um, again, shows you where the low frequency emotions are, what the frequencies are as compared to the higher frequency. And you can see that they are logarithmically stronger, the higher frequencies. So we want to, the more we can spend in that state, again, we're radiating that out. It's coming through us. It's where healing happens. It can be very quick. Actually, I wanted to bring that in. That was just what I read before it came on today about this one predictive person. It was channeling somebody, and they said one of our new technologies isn't going to be about chips and internet type things and stuff like high tech or artificial intelligence. And I've actually said this myself too, or I question why not? is my question is why not do it this way? From my experience in working with a lot of you and helping you help yourselves heal, how your body can help itself heal, is that our body is super smart. And imagine instead of focusing on these chips and things and artificial intelligence and technology and gizmos to heal us and not unnatural chemicals, manufactured chemicals to help us heal. What if our body could do that? What if instead of having a cell phone, what if we just had to think to somebody and dialed it, right? What if our brains can do some amazing things that I don't think we even begin to scratch the surfaces of what we're capable of. And that's what's really cool about this quantum shift is some of those things are going to become aware. It's not that we don't have that potential all along. It's just again, it's like, because nobody said, well, why can't we do it that way? And now there's people saying, well, I think we can do it this way. And it's that healing of instantaneously healing that our bodies can do if it just says, oh, I can fix that. Then it does. So it's learning then how do we understand that? How do we control it or turn it on or engage it and interact with it? And I think that is a huge potential that's going to be coming down the pike. It's going to be some of the new inventions that are coming are based on these emotions, these higher frequency emotions that we're being tuned to, and even higher ones because we got this new quantum shift that just came in that we're just beginning to recognize and feel, those of us that are more sensitive, but we don't quite fully know how to do it yet. Again, it's like that piano. We got a whole new octave and we're having to figure out how do we create new music with it? How do we use these new frequencies that have been handed to us and how it can benefit not only ourselves individually, but again, the collective and then universal. So some of these things can really help. It could help solve some of our global natural global warming issues. We can help us with all sorts of things. And we just have to think about what's the potential is. And that again is the beauty of getting out of the circle of concern and looking at the person and getting out of the way we've always thought of things and look at, well, why not? How else could we do it? So how else could we provide power to our homes? How else could we drive our cars? To me, it drives me crazy when every time I see how a new way of propelling our cars, but it's like, but it's saying it's just making things less bad. Why can't we invent a vehicle that puts something good in the environment instead of bad? To me, that's the paradigm shifts and thinking about how can we do things differently, and we have to get out of our habit of how we see things. Okay? And so that's what's coming down. All right. I think we talked a lot about this stuff, so we'll just keep going here. Let's get into the tools. I found this picture today and I put that into this chart and it just it cracked me up. And it says Presbyterianism is the belief that when you die, your soul goes up on the roof and gets stuck. That was by George Carlin. And and I think it kind of fits with what we've been talking about. We're kind of Presbyterianism, Presbyterianists, where our soul kind of gets stuck, right? We get stuck in the same perceptions of things. We get stuck in how do we want to move forward. And so this disruption can actually be a good thing because it can help us get unstuck. And it can actually get us stuck first, but then we get tired of being stuck. And that's where the healing takes place, is how do we get ourselves unstuck? So how we can do that is, again, using some of these self-care tools. And the biggest one is just breathing. Do some good breathing. Do full breathing. We're going to do that in the healing circle shortly. So breathe fully. It's something, it's easy to do. It's important to do. You can lower your blood pressure. If you're not breathing really fully, you're not going to access your higher thinking self. So you need to start with nice full breaths. Slow down your breathing. Spend at least 2 minutes just doing your nice slow breathing. I recommend the breathing in fours. That'll get you going to breathing slowly. You take a slow, deep breath on a count of 4. Hold it for a count of 4. Release on a count of 4. Okay, and do it 4 times. If you do that whole cycle 4 times, that will put you into that calmer state. And now you can start accessing your thinking brain. Add in some of the higher frequency chemicals of gratitude, joy, anything again that will get some of those good chemicals into your body. That will help you also get into your thinking brain so that you can get into your circle of influence. If you do this regularly throughout the day, that will just help you keep moving. Okay, it'll help you stay unstuck or get you, just if you are stuck, it'll help you get moving. It gets you into an action step. Okay. And then of course we want to get rid of trapped emotions. They just block energy, our flow, our natural flow of things. So it's blocking our natural healing abilities, certain areas of our body. It blocks us from hearing our higher self and these other ideas. So getting rid of trapped emotions is always a good thing. And then I really try looking at these experiences. If you're kind of in a spin cycle and keep hitting your head against the wall, seeing things the same way, same argument, same issues keep popping up, try looking at the experience. Try stepping out of it. And it's not easy to do, but just try and let it go for a minute and say, well, how else could I see this? Maybe this isn't the only way to see it. Because I guarantee you, there's more than one way to see whatever experience you're looking at. Wherever you're hitting your head against the wall, there are multitudes of ways of looking at that same experience. It's just that you're in the habit of seeing it that way. That is lizard brain going, nope, this is the only way. It's like looking like you're stuck on the first floor and that's all you can see out your window, right? You can only see if you're living in a big complex of a multi-story apartment building and all you've ever been on is the first floor. All you see is around you is what that first floor is, and that's your whole world of existence. But you know what, if you can go up a few floors, you might see a whole lot more, right? Say if you're on that first floor and you hear some pounding every day and you don't know what's causing the pounding, your imagination or your experience is going, oh, I think that is my neighbor hammering something on their wall, and why is that irritating? Why do they have to do that every day? And then, but you know what, you go up a few floors and you go, oh, they're building they're building a new structure down the road here, and that's what I'm hearing. Now your perception has changed, right? But when you're on the first floor, you're making an assumption that it's this one thing and you're stuck on it, and that's your reality, that's your truth, until you come up and you raise yourself up a few more floors and you get a different view. Okay, and then you go, oh, didn't ever think it was, could possibly be something else going on. Okay, so that's by changing your experience, trying to look at it from a different perspective, that can help you tremendously in changing that storyline. Okay. All right. So if you need help with that, and sometimes it's really hard to go up onto the third floor and take another look at a perspective. You need somebody else sometimes to say, I see something else up there. So that can be, sometimes we could use somebody that isn't tied to the issue that can have a different perspective and go, I think if we look at it this way, it might help you, or suggest some other ways to help to look at it that can help you. So one, we clear some trapped emotions, and that can be this is a great thing to do with your starter package. If you have a specific issue that you're really stuck on, we want to get rid of the trapped emotions. We want to talk about how to use the tools. We give you some ideas of how else to look at it. And then, really work with those tools, tailor them to help you try and create a different habit and a way of dealing with it. So, and then you get a 15-minute follow-up session that can really help you go, I was a little stuck. I wasn't quite sure what you meant or how to do with it. And then we can get that 15-minute helps you just keep moving forward. And then I wanted to mention, now that it's holiday time, I just released this book, Booster the Rooster, Who Couldn't Tell Time. So if you have any little ones about pre-kindergarten, preschool to first grade, it's a cute little book on this little guy that has a hard time um, telling time. And at first, the other farm animals make fun of him, which makes him feel bad. But then they learned about kindness can be more helpful in helping him do his job properly. And so they collaborate and work together to help teach him how to tell time. So it has a little theme and a little message in it that you can use to help kids learn. And it's just fun. And I did both writing and illustrating of it. And you can find it on Amazon. I do have a few copies here, so you can also get a couple if you want me to send them out to you. But also they're just right on Amazon. All righty. So upcoming events. December is going to be really packed. I got a lot of stuff happening this month because, I know a lot of people have a hard time with holidays. So I really want to be available. I will be working pretty much through the holidays. I actually did a session last Christmas Day last year. So somebody's really having a hard time and needs help on Christmas Day, just let me know, because I know it can be a really, really hard time for people. Especially this year, there's a lot of losses, a lot of changes in their lives. So if you need help, don't just reach out. I'm here to help. So this Saturday, we're going to have a healing circle. And then next Wednesday, we're having just the healing circle, no webinar. And then another Saturday will be a healing circle. The 15th, Animal and Emotions webinar. And then what I want to, we're having a lot of healing circles this month. I think they're really needed. And I think also I just felt important to get us working together, do as much healing on ourselves, that mind, body, spirit, and personal, collective, universal healings to start to kind of clear 2021 and get us prepared for 2022. And so I decided on 29th of December, we're going to do a special intuitive listening webinar. So we'll do a second one this month at our normal time. And we're really going to work on clearing the clutter of emotions. I'm going to do as much clearing of come in and we're going to clear a lot of trapped emotions out of folks. So if you want to get some trapped emotions removed, let's do it on that night. Get rid of them, and then we'll do another healing circle. And then on, I think it is the January 1st, is a Saturday, I'm going to do another healing circle on the 1st. And so it might be a good one if anybody has a little hangover, get rid of that. But also, let's start the 2022 on the right foot and really let's do some, set the intentions and then seal it with a really deep and special healing circle. Okay. So that's the plan and I'm sticking to it. And hopefully my system works with me. sometimes has a mind of its own. All right, so we're going to stop share and see if anybody has any questions or anything, or like a sample of something. Oh, okay. Gail says, I have been having more episodes of ringing in the ear's left side. Is this a result of a frequency change? Is this quantum shift? Will it eventually resolve itself over time? I don't. I believe so. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because actually, if it's happening a lot within the last week or two, I've noticed, and I've been getting a lot of comments from people. We, in the last couple of healing circles, I've had the songs looping, and I've written some emails out to you folks about the earworms that have been stuck in my head. And some of them were good, had a nice message. The last one, talk about crazy times. That one, it was like a torture. The water dripping torture. It was, I've never had anything like it before. It got stuck in my head and it would not leave. And it was just the one little phrase, one little line in the whole song. And it just repeated over and over. It was in my head while I slept, in my dreams, even though it had nothing to do with my dreams. It just kept playing. I kept hearing it while I was dreaming. When I woke up, it would not stop and went on for close to, I would say, maybe not quite 24 hours nonstop. I mean, there was just no break. It just kept repeating and repeating. And I was like, okay, what's the message? What? And then it was like, just stop it. If I don't get the message, then stop. I had to finally force some other songs into my head while I was awake and made it really conscious. I even clear trapped emotions, trying to figure out what the heck. And so it really was disconcerting. It was not pleasant. So that earworm was, and if there was a message, I still have no idea what it was because it just drove me too crazy. It got me into my lizard brain instead of helping me become more conscious. It did the opposite. And so I noticed now, since that experience, a number of people have had ringing in their ears to the point of distraction. Or other songs. They too have had multiple songs that have really been stuck in their heads. So it's something going on collectively. This is the lesson here. There's a collective thing that is causing this disruption that we're hearing. It's creating an auditory, clairaudient thing. So yes, it could possibly and very much likely be impacting that part of the quantum shift again. Of getting us used to something new, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. Just think, if you're learning something new, it just isn't always, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. And then in this case, it did not want to let go. It just kept going and going and going. And actually what happened too was after I finally got it out of my head and forced new songs in, and finally, oh, what a relief it was that song stopped. That night when I went to sleep, it came back. I was like, no. I woke up, I went, no, 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 no. But I forced another song in right away. So I didn't allow it to seal in, and I was able to get out of it more quickly this time. So it was either teaching me how to get out of it. I don't know if there was a lesson or it just is what it is. But yes, there's been more ringing. I've had more ringing in my ears as well lately. A lot of times it's just when we get the ringing in our ears, that's a clairaudient message coming in. It's a frequency thing, and we're just hearing it. And it can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's just try breathing and trusting that the information is coming in. It's just not into our verbal center yet. And in this case, with that song, it definitely didn't get to my verbal center. I have no idea what it. So yes, it can really, again, it can drive us crazy right now. And the quantum shift is very uncomfortable on times. Again, it's just think another octave higher. That is this, high C is kind of painful to my ears as it is. If you go up even higher, oof, no, thank you. I was listening to something just today on a YouTube clip of some soprano singer who could sing like an F sharp that was super high. I couldn't listen. She wasn't even there yet, but she was getting up there. She was cranking herself up, and I couldn't handle it. I had to stop listening because it was too painful. I don't handle really high frequencies. Um, I can hear even higher. That's not in the non-auditory area than our normal range, but in our normal range, it's really painful to my ears. I don't like super high notes and stuff like that. It agitates me too much. So I'm too sensitive to it. Or super low can be also disruptive. It's uncomfortable. So just be aware of that, and we're just not used to it. So yes, that could be possibly. Left side is quite often messages coming in on the left. Right is usually being sent out. So that's not a rule, but quite often. So if you're having in the left side, that to me is like you're probably getting a message coming in. So just stay tuned. Pun intended. Any other? That was a good question. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else have questions or want some releases? I got my cheat sheet here of emotions. Otherwise, we'll go right into the healing circle. It doesn't look like we have any offerings, so I'm going to stop the